the way it happened was the farm workers come through, and of course they organize support committees, boycott committees, and the college youth were attracted to that. That was the first, in a sense, organizing experience right there. So these support committees for the farm workers were very important in being an initial training ground for the college activists. Then they go off, okay, farm workers one thing, but we got other issues, right? Especially if you're in the cities. So from there, you go off and start organizing around different issues, not necessarily farm worker, but related to the Chicano. And one of those projects was, of course, this Freedom School that I'm talking about. Now, another project that started, and also, the Mexican American Youth Organization Mayo was the initial formation, and everybody joined, and that was a mixture of college youth and street youth and social workers that got political and so forth. So the Freedom School was one project that came out of Mayo, but the other project that came out of Mayo was the Committee for Barrio Betterment, and that was a electoral slate organized to challenge the Good Government League in San Antonio. Now, the GGL, Good Government League, had been in power for 20, 25 years by that time. They were considered impregnable, and in part was because San Antonio, the electoral system in San Antonio was at large. You're running for city council position, you got to win the citywide vote. Well, who has those kind of resources, that kind of thing. So that's how the GGL was able to maintain control. They did have a West Side GGL, okay? But this is to become the way the electoral slate of the GGL was determined was through secret committee, and they would pick a Mexicano and an African American to be on their slate, but it was done through secret committee. These members, these token representatives, didn't necessarily live in the barrio or ghetto, and that was the GGL. So the CBB, this is a young, Mario Compian, must have been about 24.
I saw him yesterday, bumped into him at the HEB.
Yeah, he must have been about 24. The others were also likewise very young. Rosie Castro was on the slate the second time around. If you see a picture of them, as I have in my book, you see that, they're all in their 20s, right? They're running against the GGL, which was sort of like an impossible dream kind of thing, right? Yeah. And so what happens? Man, they almost forced the mayor. Compian runs against McAllister. Almost forces him into a runoff. The CBB came in second in all the contests, and they won all the West Side boxes. Okay, won all the West Side boxes. Mario Compian declares himself mayor of the West Side. But it demonstrated a weakness in the GGL. It demonstrated how upset the residents of the West and South Side were with the GGL. And what were they upset about? The floods, the annual floods, the lack of any kind of public amenities, parks and things like that, social programs, and of course the gang warfare, These are all things that they were upset that GGL wasn't taking care of. What we know now, of course, that comes out later, was that all the monies, the bond monies for public improvements, were being spent on the expanding north side to the detriment of the west, east, and south sides of town. Even though those voters had voted for these bond improvements, they were now just essentially being used on the expanding north side.